All right. Sandy, can you hear us?
She can respond to the chat.
All right, here we go. So we've been studying angels for almost 4 months. This is session 15. When I started this study, I had no idea there was so much in the Bible about angels. Today we're going to move into Revelation. And there are, of course, Revelation is about heaven. And so there is going to be there's a lot of references to angels in Revelation. May take us 3 weeks to get through it. I don't know. So just review from last week. We studied the the final angelic appearances in the book of Acts. We'd started that the week before, but we started last week with the angel telling Philip to go to the desert road where he met the Ethiopian eunuch. And Philip obeyed, and he was able to explain Isaiah's writing to the Ethiopian who believed and was baptized. And the Ethiopian became the first Gentile to be saved. And he took the gospel to Ethiopia, where many more were saved. Then we looked, God sent an angel to tell Cornelius to go and get Peter. The Holy Spirit convinced Peter to go, and the result was that Cornelius and all of his friends and household were saved. They were the first Romans to be saved. And then God sent a warrior angel to release Peter from prison. Peter was at peace enough that he was sound asleep when the angel came. The angel had to hit him in the side. He said he smote him in the side. And he woke him up and got him out of the prison. And the guards didn't even know anything happened. And then God sent an angel right after that to execute punishment on Herod for his pride and for his sin. And Herod died of being eaten by worms. And finally, God sent an angel to tell Paul that God had granted him the lives of all who were aboard the ship he was sailing on. And the ship was in a terrible storm and ended up wrecking, but everybody on that ship lived, just as God said through the angel. So the angel was God's messenger to Paul to tell him all that. So tonight we're going to go into Revelation, and we're going to look at several passages that involve angels, and we can learn some more about the angels. We're going to start in Revelation 1:20. I'm going to give Gary, could you read that one?
Yes. Revelation 1:20. As for the mystery of the 7 stars that you saw in my right hand and the 7 golden lampstands, the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches.
Okay. Most things in Revelation can be taken literally, but in this case, the angels of the 7 churches are probably not actual angels. Most conservative Bible teachers consider the angels of the 7 churches to be their pastors or spiritual leaders. However, I think it's possible, from my personal perspective, this is not something that I would take to the bank as far as being totally viable as a position, but I think it's possible that God may have assigned angels to watch over churches. It's possible. There are lots of angels, and God could be doing that. We don't know. But most Bible teachers believe that when Jesus was talking about the angels of the 7 churches, he was talking about their leaders, spiritual leaders. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to go to Romans 3:5. Bob, could you? Revelation. Yeah, Romans.
Yep, I got it.
Revelation 3:5.
Yep. One who conquers will be clothed thus in white garments. I will never blot his name out of the book of life. I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels.
So God created the angels to be his specific servants and messengers, and they do many things for God. And I believe God is always surrounded by angels doing things, being there, doing things. And so when the Apostle John was given the vision of heaven, starting in Revelation 4, the angels become prominent because they're continually around God's throne. So here, Jesus is promising that if the one who conquers will be clothed in white garments, and he will confess his name before God the Father and before God's angels. I like that. Okay, Martha, I want you to read Revelation 4, 6b through 8.
Okay. And around the throne, on each side of the throne, are four living creatures, full of eyes in front and behind. The first living creature like a lion, the second living creature like an ox, the third living creature like with the face of a man, and the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. And the four living creatures, each one of them with 6 wings, are full of eyes all around and within, and day and night they never cease to say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come.
Weeks ago, we studied these living creatures when we studied seraphim and cherubim. Many Bible teachers consider these living creatures to be angels. I'm not so sure of that, but again, it's
not people.
It's not something that I would fall on my sword over. I just think that they might be different. God may have created these personalities, these creatures, whatever we're going to call them. I like to call them living beings for a specific purpose as his worship leaders. That seems to be what they do. And everywhere God the Father goes, they're there. You read about it in Isaiah, the seraphim, who look a whole lot like, they're described a whole lot like what these living creatures in Revelation are described like, the seraphim, and they're there around God's throne. And then again in Ezekiel, now he's talking, and they're specifically named cherubim in Ezekiel, but again, they're around God's throne. They look a whole lot like what's described here in this passage. And so they're God's worship leaders. From a human perspective, we'd say, oh, I think they're like the God's Secret Service bodyguards. God doesn't need bodyguards. He's all powerful. He doesn't need bodyguards. But they are intelligent beings who continually worship the Father. And God deserves to be worshiped. I mean, we could talk for hours about how God deserves to be worshiped.
I think it's pretty amazing that they have the honor of being in presence right there with God. Ever since from their creation to today.
All the time.
Time, 24/7, yeah. Was it not 24/7 in heaven? But
Yeah, but
it's eternity there.
all the time. You're right, Bob. What a privilege. What a privilege. And again, and then throughout history, men and women have worshiped, quote, gods, that some of them are these beings remind me of some of the things that people have worshiped over time. But these guys wouldn't say to worship them. They say, we worship God alone. None of God's creation should be worshiped. God alone deserves our worship. And these beings would tell us the same thing. Okay, we're going to worship now, but we're worshiping the Father. Okay, Gary, could you read Revelation chapter 5, verses 11 to 12?
Then I looked and I heard around the throne and the living creatures and the elders the voice of many angels, numbering myriads of myriads and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, Worthy is the Lamb who was slain to receive power and wealth and wisdom and might and honor and glory and blessing.
Amen.
This passage classifies the living beings separately from the angels. Because it says, I heard around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, the voice of many angels, numbering myriads and myriads. Interesting. How many angels were there?
Too numerous to count.
Myriads and myriads and thousands and thousands.
Yep. So I looked up the definition for myriad, and it's in the dictionary. And it usually means more than can be counted. It usually means you're talking about a number that's just it's too hard to even think about. Now there are some that like to define a myriad as about 10,000 in terms of soldiers, or an army. But I think in this reference, John simply couldn't count them.
No.
And I thought of Abraham, God telling Abraham, okay, go out and look at the stars in the sky and count them if you think you can. I think that's where John was when he's looking at all these angels, and there were so many of them. He's going, oh, there's a lot of them. I don't even know how to describe the number. It's what he was doing right there.
Yeah, we've had scientists throughout history have tried to count the stars, 1, 2. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
No.
No.
And they keep finding more galaxies.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, every time they look into a black spot in the sky and they get a bigger telescope, there's bazillion more galaxies. Yeah, keep counting.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, I want you to read Revelation 7, 1 through 3.
After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, that no wind might blow on earth or sea or against any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, the seal of the living God. And he called with a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm earth and sea, saying, do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads.
Okay, here again are 4 angels who are very powerful. It defines this verse. These 4 angels are powerful. They're holding back the wind from blowing anywhere on the earth. And it says in these verses, it tells us that God had given these angels the power to harm the earth, the sea, and the trees. And I was thinking about it as I was studying this time. Well, what is the thing that would damage trees? What is the thing that would damage trees? Wind. Wind. A tornado will turn strong trees into sticks. We've all seen it on the news and so forth. You might even seen it in live in person at some times. Tornadoes and hurricanes can just tear trees up to nothing. So these 4 angels were given the power. They're powerful. They were given the power to hold back the wind on all the earth. That's interesting, if it's literal. And it says another angel. Then I saw another angel ascending from the rising sun with the seal of the living God, who called with a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given the power to harm the sea and the earth. Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads. They were not to do their work of harming the earth until all of God's witnesses from Israel were sealed. And this is in Revelation 7, it's about the 144,000 witnesses that God chose from among Israel, from all 12 tribes. Very important passage. Okay, let's go to another one. Your turn.
Okay.
This is Revelation 8, 2 through 5.
Then I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and the seven trumpets were given to them. And another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on a golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth, and there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake.
Mm.
How that?
This is the introduction to the trumpet judgments.
Judgments.
So there are 3 sets of judgments. There's the seal judgments first, followed by the 7th seal brings us the 7 trumpet judgments, and the 7th trumpet judgment brings us the
Bowl.
7 bowl judgments. And so this is the introduction to the trumpet judgments. Each of the 7 angels were given trumpets. And verse 2 says that these angels stand before God. So these are important angels. These are important angels. I believe there's probably hierarchy within the ranks of the angels. And
Who knows?
these are 7 of the important angels that stand right before God. This will be an awesome responsibility for these angels. And each trumpet will represent a specific judgment of God on the people of earth. We're not going to talk about the judgments. We're just kind of focusing right now on the angels. Another different angel stood at the altar of God with a golden censer. So a censer is basically
Like a pan.
it's a thing that holds incense that burns and puts smoke in the air. And this incense included incense with the prayers of the believers on the earth. And incense is something that's part of the worship of God in the tabernacle and in the temple. The priests of Israel were to go into the holy place. And when they went in there, they had a censer, and they would put in special incense in there, and they would make smokes of incense. And that's what God told them to do. It's something that God likes.
Fragrant
It's
aroma.
a fragrant aroma that's pleasing to God. God values our prayers. They're a pleasing aroma to him. He likes it when we pray. God knows what we're going to pray. He knows what's going on in our pea-picking heads. He knows every thought that we have, but he still wants us to pray. He still wants us to pray. He likes us to talk to him and tell him what's going through our minds and our hearts. And then after offering the incense and prayers, the angel filled the censer with fire from the altar and threw it to the earth, and it caused thunder, lightning, and an earthquake. I'm glad I won't be on the earth for this. That would not be pleasant. This is direct judgment of God on sinful mankind. Direct judgment of God. Okay, we got a couple more. Gary, could you read Revelation 9, verses 13 to 15?
Then the 6th angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind.
This is prophetic, obviously. It is going to happen. This is the 6th trumpet. So this is the 6th of the trumpet judgments of God on mankind, direct judgments, just like the flood at the time of Noah. Direct judgment of God. And here we have, when the 6th trumpet blows, an angel is told to release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. So the four angels who have been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill a third of mankind. So if the angels are currently bound, they have to be fallen angels. They wouldn't be bound if they were God's holy angels, because God's holy angels would just do what they're told. These are fallen angels who have been bound from the very beginning when the fallen angels fell.
It
Angels
tells me that God created time, not just for kind of our purposes, I guess, but really for his purposes, because
That's
the
right.
hour, the date, the time, I mean, this was his purpose for this to happen at a specific moment in time.
That's right. And angels are very intelligent and powerful beings. Can you imagine being bound like this for a long period of time where you can't move, you can't do anything? You're bound at that one spot for a long period of time,
Money at least.
probably 6,000 years or so.
Yeah.
But they are under the judgment of God for their disobedience when they could have chosen to obey God and become holy angels, but they chose to disobey and follow Satan. Their ultimate judgment will be the lake of fire, but God is planning to use them to execute his judgment on mankind. And I like what you said, Bob. These fallen angels were bound by God for the specific hour, day, month, and year of God's judgment. God, the Father, knows the exact timing of this judgment. We do not.
Only the Father. Even Jesus doesn't know.
Yeah,
right.
even Jesus does. This demonstrates God's completely unmatched power and sovereignty. That's absolutely right. When these fallen angels are released, they will kill or cause to be killed 1/3 of mankind. So if it was to happen tomorrow, which it's not likely to do, we don't know. There are currently 8 billion people on the earth. 1/3 is 2.6 billion people. It's a lot of people. Never doubt that angels are powerful, and Satan is powerful, and the fallen angels are powerful, but their power cannot compare to God's power. These are powerful angels, and yet God, the Father, has them bound. They are currently bound in that position right now, waiting for that day, that hour when God is going to release them to cause havoc on the earth. Yeah. God's power, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And I was just thinking just a couple of minutes ago while we were reading the passage in Revelation chapter 7 about the 12,000 or the 144,000 believers. You know what's different? This is something that just struck me. What's different between the judgments of God during the time of Revelation and when God judged the world at the time of the flood? At the time of the flood, there was no opportunity. When the waters came, there was no opportunity for anybody to be saved.
No.
No opportunity. It was over. When the water came, it was over. Everyone died, except Noah and his family. Everyone died. In the period of God's great judgment, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to put their trust in Jesus and going to realize that they missed it. They're going to realize they missed it, and they're going to put their trust in Jesus. And those 144,000 Jews are going to be out there evangelizing the world. And they're going to have the seal of God's protection on them. But they're going to be going around and evangelizing. And the poor people that do get saved during that time, they're going to be beheaded and so forth. It's going to be horrible for them. But at least they're going to go to heaven and not to hell. All the people at the time of the flood went to hell. Horrible. I just thought about that. That shows God's grace. That just shows God's grace. Okay, we got one more passage. And I'm going to read it this time. Now, this is Revelation 12, verses 7-9. Now, war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient servant who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. So sometime in the future, there's going to be open warfare in heaven between God's army that is led by Michael, the archangel, and Satan and Satan's fallen angels. You know, Satan started out as an archangel, but he fell.
We talked about
And if you go back a few verses from this, Revelation 14:4 says, his tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to earth, talking about Satan, the dragon. When he turned away from God and sinned, he took a third of the angels with him. It's a lot of angels. And so during the time of God's great judgments on mankind, there's going to be open warfare in heaven for a short period. And Michael and his angels will be victorious, and Satan and all his fallen angels will be cast down to earth. It will not be a good time to be on the earth. When you will unleash Satan and all his demon hosts on earth, it will not be a good time to be on the earth. Yeah, angels are powerful, but God is in complete control. There's no doubt about it.
That victory's already been sealed with Christ dying on the cross and rising again.
That victory, yeah, you're right. That victory was sealed when Jesus rose from the dead.
That's right.
Absolutely. So next time we'll continue our study of angels in Revelation. I can't guarantee we'll finish it in one more session. There's just a lot, but this is good. I like this. I found it really invigorating. It's interesting. It's good to know. And it's also good to know that God is in control. No matter what's going on around us, God is in control. Politics and stuff looks ugly, and it is ugly, but God is in control. We'll keep our eyes focused on him, and everything else falls into place. And it may seem, our pastor did a great sermon today. He's teaching through the 23rd Psalm. He says, it talks about how God will help us to lie down in green pastures, and it'll be nice and it will be pleasant. And he puts us to rest. And then he says, then he takes us through the dark valley. And God leads us through dark valleys. That's the truth. I mean, you don't have to live long on this earth to know that God takes us through dark valleys, but he doesn't take us there and leave us there. He doesn't send us dark valleys and say, okay, you're going to end there. That's it. You're over for you. Too bad for you. And I love that. And so God is always watching over us and taking care of us, and things are looking bad, and he's still in charge. He's still in control.